when I have soil in my hands, underneath my fingernails, I feel different. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be at. Working on the land, I don't have to think about people looking at me a certain type of way. It's way deeper than just a line of work. When I went to school, I studied conservation resource studies. That was the name of my major, and I got to form it around sustainable farming, agroecology, indigenous foodways. I just felt an inherent connection to nature. If you really want to help the earth in the biggest way, look at how people are growing their food. Look how people are literally using most of the earth. As the pandemic happened, a lot of organizations were learning the importance of growing food and having a distribution base. When that happened, we were doing a lot of work with Segorite members.
I don't like spikes.
It's not spiky. It's good for you. Put on your skin, moisturize your skin. Put it on your face before you go to bed.
You can put it on your body, like
yeah, you can moisturize your body. I work for the Segorite Land Trust. We're an urban indigenous woman-led land trust based in the Bay Area. We refer to this area as Foochin, and we're mainly based in the village of Lishan, which is present-day East Oakland.
Yeah, Najioni is great. Definitely one of the people I got closer to within Segorite first. I know that they really are here to support indigenous and Black youth.
I've learned a lot from Will. When to plant things, what plants like to be next to each other, what plants like to have their space. It's pretty important to ground yourself. It could be planting your feet in the soil. You want some gloves?
Yes.
It could be saying a prayer. By being able to work with these plants, it's fostering a healing space, but also making sure that we understand the greater work that we're doing. My dad came from the Navajo Nation, and my mom grew up in East Palo Alto. My parents met in Oakland. Growing up, we had limited access to green spaces. The majority of the time, we lived in apartments, so there wasn't much space to do your own garden. A large part of my work has to do with education. We talk about calling on all generations and all walks of life to really take part in this work that is transforming the legacy of colonization. We're trying to make sure that our communities can sustain themselves. We are focused on rematriating the land, returning the land to its original form, to have access to places where we can grow food, medicines, pray, dance, and gather together. There are like more than 200 varieties
Of corn?
Before?
I believe that.
Now there's only like 50?
A lot of varieties just die off if no one's growing them.
When I hear words like regenerative organic, ultimately all of that comes from indigenous practices that have been passed down.
Soil is everything. We don't use any chemicals or pesticides. We don't believe in monoculturing. We like to diversify our field. We like to think about the pollinators, think about the bees, think about the butterflies. When the winter season is here, when the capacity to grow food and to be on the land isn't as present, we put the field to rest, but also regenerate it through certain crops and seeds. And then when it is time to grow food, we cut it down. It decomposes, more nutrients back into the earth. If you talk about composting, cover cropping, no-till agriculture that's been going on for thousands of years, it's really just stuff that we're trying to come back to.
We're trying to make sure that our communities are able to tap into that self-agency and be resilient.
If regenerative agriculture does become the norm, I hope that it's with the motive of the people, for the earth. It's really seen as the solution and not just a temporary trend.
Many California tribes are not federally recognized. Some of them are seen as extinct. If you look at the history of colonization, not just for Native people, but for Black people, it's not that long ago.
So many indigenous people have been invisibilized and erased through time, and seeing the connections of that with food and with land, it's very clear. The current industrial agriculture system is oppressive because that's what it was based on. Colonization, slavery. There are systemic problems that are structural and actually written in law that are racist. As someone who has experienced a lot of racial oppression, people are seeing now from the Black Lives Matter movement that we still have a lot of trauma. Today, 98% of farmland is owned by white people coming to the land, and when I show up to the farm as a Black farmer, as a Black person, that's an act of resistance. But being on land in a way that's actually healing and addressing trauma and pain is revolutionary.
When we're at the farm in present-day Albany, these are village sites. These are burial sites, they're sacred places, and we should treat it as such.
Sogoreate has done a lot to contribute to my understanding of respecting the land and being actually present on the land. When I show up, the first thing I do isn't just start working. I have to tap in with the altar to say a prayer. That helped awaken something that was already inherently inside of me. And I think all of us have a connection in that way.
By having the land trust, Sogoreate is able to do rematriation.
Rematriation is saying, give the mother back the earth. You're giving the indigenous people the land back.
The work that we're doing is to ensure that the generations after us will have a place to live. We're encouraging people how to be in right relationship with others, more thoughtful of what we're doing to the earth, figuring out ways that we can respect traditional practices in indigenous communities and recognize that this knowledge is just as important as your published science journal.
It's really having land spaces that aren't just thinking about how we can shift agriculture, but how can we shift our world viewpoint.